So welcome everybody to this evening's LGFA Coach Education webinar. The focus tonight is how to conduct analysis during games. And as you see, guys, I'm joined by my colleague, Glenn Kelly, and I'm going to let Glenn introduce himself. Glenn, do you want to say a few words before we start and introduce yourself?
Yeah, perfectly, guys. So my name is Glenn Kelly. I'm a postgraduate research student investigating the characteristics of successful performance in ladies Gaelic football. So in layman's terms, what I'm doing, I'm collecting loads of information on what's happening in the ladies Gaelic football performance, start developing kind of a research body on, can we start developing a legacy and what's happening in our sport? So at the moment, we've been collecting games from 2019, 2020, 21, 22. What we're doing basically is compiling all that information, have an understanding of what is actually happening in our games, where are our scores coming from, how many shots are our senior teams kicking, how many turnovers, what is the nature of our game. So that's it in a little snapshot. I'm sure I could talk all about the research that we're doing, but that's
exactly. And you'll be mentioning that shortly as well, Glenn, a bit more where people can probably read up a bit more on that as well. It's very exciting stuff. Yeah. So guys, looking forward to listening to Glenn tonight. Just a few housekeeping things. Look, the webinar won't be no more than 70 minutes. We always keep within the hour or to 70 minutes. If you have any questions or queries, please use the chat function or even the Q&A. I'll monitor it as I go along, and I'll ask questions of Glenn as we go along. But what we'll do, Glenn, I'm going to hand it over to you. Without further ado, Glenn, off you go.
Perfect. Okay, guys, so as we said, tonight's webinar is going to be on how to conduct analysis of games. And just there in the box there's my email, guys. There's my Twitter handle. Please reach out. If there's any questions, if there's anything that I can do, it's my full-time gig now to look into ladies football, to start investigating this. So I'd love to be able to, all the coaches who are on the ground, I want to make sure that the research that's getting conducted, that it's actually reaching the people that it's being conducted for. Okay, so as I said, there's my Twitter, there's my email. Please don't hesitate to get in contact at any time. So firstly, guys, for the next 60 minutes, I'm going to give a brief overview on what's to come. Okay, so we're going to kick it off. We're going to spend about 10 minutes just to grasp a little understanding on what is performance analysis. Why are we doing it? Why is there so many clubs around the country now starting to incorporate performance analysis? What's the golden nugget here? What's the big secret that people are talking about? And secondly, guys, when we're conducting analysis, what do we want to achieve? Why are we doing it? Okay, we're going to, like most analysis systems and everything, are going to take a little bit of time to practice and put the work in. So we always keep that end goal in sight. What do we want to achieve here? What are we doing? Okay, we're going to spend around 30 minutes on what to collect in your analysis. Okay, so when we're doing analysis, one of the biggest questions is, what do I want to collect? Okay, so we're going to spend a good bit of time teasing out what do we want to collect and where's the answers. Okay, how to collect it. Again, we're going to spend a good bit of time on how to collect it. We're going to provide everyone here now tonight with analysis templates. Okay, so the last thing we want is to rocking up to a webinar at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday evening and leaving with just information but nothing to get the ball rolling. So we're going to make sure that we give you all the information you have, all the information we have to get the ball rolling for yourselves. We're going to briefly touch off 20 minutes just on delivering feedback. So we've collected all the information. Let's give it back to our players. Let's give it back to our management team. And how do we do that? And finally, tracking trends on the performance over time. Okay, so basically we want to answer the question there is, are we getting better? Okay, so if we don't have an understanding of our past performances, we don't know if we're going to get better. Okay, so that's pretty much how the 60 minutes are going to flow. And as William said, guys, if there's any questions, throw them into the chat. I'd love interaction, as much interaction as possible. At least then we can have a bit of a conversation here and not just me talking, because I wouldn't like to listen to me for 60 minutes, that's for sure. Perfect. William, I believe you're on mute there. I can see you trying to get in.
Sometimes it's good to be mute, but I suppose our research showed that, you know what I mean, female footballers or Gaelic footballers, they want to improve and get better. Hence massively. Why this stuff is very important, Glenn. Do you know?
Like if you see, like ladies Gaelic football, there's over 200,000 registered members now. The sport is absolutely thriving, guys. So it's really to start developing an understanding of providing the players, they're coming up to training nights like this. I'm sure there's some teams out there training that weather now tonight. What can we do as an organization, as a research, as a country, that could really start assisting our players, giving them information on our sport, and ultimately giving them the opportunities to get better? Okay. So the outcome. So hopefully by the end of tonight's webinar, all coaches and all participants here will be able to incorporate performance analysis to improve their practice and decision making. We're going to be able to decide on what aspects of the game do I want to analyze, but more importantly, what aspects of the game should we analyze? Okay. We'll give everyone the opportunity to create their own analysis system. So that, as you see here, we have Ashley Maloney kicking loads of analysis templates there into your inbox. Okay, so at the end here, we're going to drop everything. All the material that we're going to talk about tonight is going to be given to you. Okay, there's no big hidden secrets here. Okay, we want everyone to be able to deliver insight on their performances. So we've collected the information. Let's give this information back. And more importantly, how do we do that? And finally, guys, we want everyone to have an understanding on how do we track performances over time, and ultimately answering the question, are we getting better? Okay, so without further ado, we'll get right off, okay? So firstly, what is performance analysis? Okay, so I could probably do an hour webinar here tonight on what is performance analysis and all the research that's been done in it. But the main thing that I'd like everyone to leave here tonight now, that performance analysis is looking at the actual performance. So it's different to, like, let's say, strength and conditioning and everything like that. So what we're doing with performance analysis is when that whistle blows, when the whistle blows at the end, what happens in that game? How many shots are there? How many turnovers? How many tackles? Okay, so it's the actual performance. It's what happens when the game isn't basically happening. Performance analysis is always going to be an objective way of recording the performance. So the key elements of the performance can be quantified in a valid and consistent manner. So I always just keep them in mind. It's the actual performance, it's objective, it's valid, and it's consistent, okay? So we're not going to spend a lot of time here on definitions and everything like that, because I'm sure everyone has a brief understanding of what it is. We want to basically give you the opportunity to get going, okay? So why do we use performance analysis? Okay, so as you see here on the left-hand side, guys, when we're conducting performance analysis, ultimately what we want to do is hold up a mirror of the performance, whether that's through numbers, whether it's through videos, whether it's through statistics, whether it's through a simple big number on the board. Ultimately, we want to hold up a mirror of what's happening when that game is happening. So as we know, coaches and players are not going to remember every single detail of the game. Okay, so research is probably suggesting that coaches remember roughly, some of the elite coaches are going to remember roughly around 60% of what happened during that game. However, as we know, we can't remember everything. When the game is happening, there's stress. There's so many things happening that what happened in the first 10 minutes, you're not going to remember at the end. So an analysis allows us to objectify it, to track it, to basically look for trends here. Okay, so video of the performance and objective information is a lot more powerful than words and feedback. So as we know that, it's like when we're teaching a skill, guys, if you think about it, we introduce, we demonstrate, we show them how to do it. It's the same thing here. We're not just going to tell them, we're going to show them, whether that's through videos, whether through infographics, whether it's through shot maps. We show them, okay? It's always we show them, we show them, we show them. Okay? And we allows us to understand their own performance and to inform training and practice. Okay, so we go out, we have an understanding on how we want to play the game. Performance analysis will allow us to basically, are we playing the game how we want to play the game? Is there something in that performance that we can inform our training going forward? So the next 4 weeks of training and practice, can we have an understanding of what objectively happens in the game to inform our practice going forward? Okay. And ultimately, guys, when you're conducting performance analysis, what do you want to achieve? So we're keeping the end goal in sight here. So as you see here, guys, there's a big lighthouse on your left-hand side. And this is some research that was conducted by Denise Martin from TU Dublin. And it's some fantastic research into what a performance analyst does. So I'll drop that in here now tonight as well, if someone who does want to read it. But ultimately, the main takeaways from this is when we're conducting performance analysis, ultimately what we want to do is to create performance knowledge. Okay, so what does the coach need to know about the performance? And can we create knowledge? Can we start getting an understanding of what we do when we play the sport? Secondly, we're not just going to collect that information and let it sit on the shelf. We want to design opportunities for this knowledge to be used and understood. Okay, so as we all know, information and knowledge is only as valuable if it's understood and used. So when we're delivering our feedback, are we going to do really complex statistics and things? Maybe not, because it's going to hinder what is understood and it's going to hinder what's being used. So what is the most optimal feedback that we can do? That we have our knowledge, we design the opportunities for it to be used, and ultimately we progress, we improve our judgments, we have an understanding of our game. Okay, so that's all the theory stuff kind of out of the way. That's kind of an introduction into performance analysis, guys. Now we're going to be talking about kind of how do I do it? Okay, so without, I told you what it is now, we're going to really start getting into the nitty gritty of how do I actually go out there? I have a game on Sunday evening. How do I do this? Okay, so before we go into conducting an analysis system, I'd just like to bring to your attention, guys, that analysis does not always have to be numbers and statistics. Okay, sometimes reviewing the video footage is going to be the most powerful. Okay, so if anybody could take any information away here tonight, start recording your games. Okay, can we get permission from our county boards or whatever it needs to go around that? But can we start recording our games? Because then we have a legacy. We could simply have a YouTube folder on private. We can share it with the players. All the players are playing their games, guys. When I was playing, I used to love looking back at my own performance. I used to love getting information back on how I can improve. I'm sure every player is like that as well today. So although this evening's webinar is going to be on how to conduct analysis, always remember that the video is going to be really, really important to this. Okay. So again, don't just tell me, show me. If I told us guys are kicking with sport tonight, let's show a video. Let's ask the questions. Let's inform discussion. Okay, because the players are going to have the answers. We have to remember the players are the ones out there on the pitch. All we want to do with our performance analysis is ultimately start improvement judgment, start getting the conversation going that we can tease out how do we get better here. Okay, so how we're going to conduct analysis of our games, we're going to talk about how to plan analysis. So the first step of everything is planning. It's like your coaching sessions. We're going out to work on kick passing. We're going to plan what we do throughout. We're going to go through creating the analysis system. We're going to talk about how to practice to make sure that when we are delivering analysis, again, it's valid and it's consistent. Okay, and then as we progress, we may have to adapt things to make it a little bit easier. We may have to develop it because the coach wants more information. We're going to talk about ways of how to do so. Okay.
And on that, Clint, what I like about that is that you're speaking there about, I think research shows that 10% of coaching is done through facilitation and guiding. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Only 10% of coaching is done through facilitation and guidance. And you're speaking there about, the players have the answers, we empower the players, we ask questions, but only our current. So like this sort of conducting performance analysis could really probably throw that up, that percentage is up if we utilize this properly. Again, I just said I'd throw that in there.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example, guys, from even from my own conducting analysis with club teams. So we basically, through conducting analysis, we found out there seemed to be a little bit of a breakdown in a certain aspect of a performance. And we kind of started teasing it out to find out why is this reoccurring week in, week out, week in, week out. We brought it to the players and we basically teased out that the corner forward and the midfielder didn't have a communication where the ball wanted to be played. So we were losing so many balls being played in. But the analysis allowed us to have an understanding of that the players actually haven't communicated where the ball should be played in. And ultimately, we got a performance gain from that. And we've seen that as we progressed on through the weeks. So ultimately, guys, as we said, sometimes reviewing the footage, sometimes all that, but analysis is just facilitating the players to get better. Okay. So straight into planning, guys. So planning what to collect in your analysis. So as you see here on the left-hand side, I'm not going to bring a big theory thing, just the same with some references from research. Okay, so it's just there. The main thing that we want to remember is that our analysis system should be efficient and it should be easy to use. If we remember all the stress when the game has happened, there's so many things happening. It could be raining, there could be a young lad running around kicking a ball, there could be loads of things happening. It needs to be easy to learn. We need to be able to pick it up and we'll be able to work away with it. It's not really complex. Okay, there's always going to be a clean trade-off between the detail in which we deliver and the speed in which it can be done. We can collect loads and loads of things, but it's going to take us longer to deliver that feedback. If we think of the water breaks, sometimes we deliver feedback. Half time we deliver feedback. Maybe we have 3 to 5 minutes to get our point across, to have that conversation with the management to inform our performance in the second half. If we're collecting loads and loads and loads and loads of things, rapidly we have paralysis by analysis. Okay, and we should always resist the temptation to collect everything. Everybody here in the room tonight could collect everything. We always have to ask yourself your question. If I'm collecting this information, does this allow us to get better? If we found, what do we want to know? Okay, and less is always going to be more. Okay, so when we're planning our analysis, guys, we want to have an understanding of what variables in the game are critical to success, and that's what we'll be collecting to start off. But thinking of things like scoring. Believe it or not, guys, if you score more in ladies football, you win the game. Okay, so let's start collecting. What's our average score? Okay, what should we, when we go out to play our game, we have 60 minutes ahead of us. Do we know what the average score in our league is? Do we know what the average winning margin in our league is? That information is readily available on the LGFA website. We can basically set a target for our players. Okay, guys, we want to go out here today. We want 14 scores. That's setting a target in their mind that they have something to aspire to. Okay, and then you can go a little bit more depth. As you see here, Kelly et al. 2021, we conducted research from the 2019 and 2020 Senior Intercounty Championships, and we benchmark performances for winning teams and for losing teams. So you can go in there and you can get your benchmarks. You can get the variables that are critical to success, and you can use that to inform your performance analysis. Another massive thing here, guys, is when we're collecting what to collect is the team's philosophy. Okay, so can we collect information to inform if we're playing the game how we want to play the game? Okay, so for an example, if William came to me and said, okay, guys, up here in Carron O'Reilly's, okay, we're a hard-working team. This is what we pride ourselves on. We work hard, we work hard, we work hard. Okay, right away to an analyst, I need to find an objective way to quantify what is hard work. What does hard work look like? I'd be having that conversation with William. So thinking of things like hard work to me would look like tackles, contact tackles, stop tackles, turnovers won. They're the type of things in the game that spark hard work to me. Okay, so the team's philosophy, are we working hard today? Well, these are the things we can collect to inform if we're working hard. Okay, so again, what variables to collect? The research is there. We have an understanding of what is critical to success and the team's philosophy. So how do we want to play the game and what do we know from research? That is obviously going to inform what we collect. Okay, so just going to plug the research here really quick, guys. It's called Benchmarking Successful Performance in Ladies Gaelic Football. There's multiple tables in here, kind of it looks at scores from kickouts, where teams are shooting from. Basically all the, as you see here, all the performance variables for winning teams and losing teams. And we've established what variables in the game are critical to success. So as we can see here, attack creation. So winning teams create an attack with their possessions, let's say 66% of the time, whereas losing teams are creating an attack with 46% of the time. Okay, so we had a sample size of over 31 games, I believe. So we know now that winning teams are always going to be creating more attacks. So for a team that's aspiring to get better, can we start measuring this? Where do we weigh up to the senior inter-county teams? Obviously, a junior club team may not be reaching what the senior inter-county teams, but it's giving them that target. It's giving them something to work towards. You may go out one day and you play absolutely fantastic game. Can you imagine how the younger players on that team, we could go in and we can deliver feedback that today, girls, we played up to the targets, up to the standard of a senior inter-county team. That's going to spur them on for the weeks to come. Okay, so without kind of dwelling on this, guys, the research, I'm going to drop it into the chat, and it's good for use as information for kind of targets and everything. And we're going to conduct another research pod soon, kind of to really go deep in this information. Okay. And
just before you move on there, Glenn, a question came in the I just want to kind of clear up. I think it was Fergus was asking about videoing underage games, and as Joe said there, it's vitally important, guys, you ensure all the relevant permissions are completed. I think there's actually a full section in our code that you're going to get on our website. So guys, just if you're doing videoing, once you've all the relevant permissions covered, you should be okay. Sorry, Glenn, I just want to answer.
Yeah, so as you said, guys, so even when we're going to play our games as a senior ladies teams, like we still have to request permission from the county board. You need your permission. If obviously we want to record our games, but sometimes we simply can't, and sometimes we can't breach data. We can't breach people's right to privacy. Okay, so yeah, progress on, William.
You're good to go. Okay.
Happy days. Okay, guys. So staying on planning what to collect. So ultimately, what to collect comes down what we want to know about our performance. Okay, so we're not going to go out there collecting how many people are wearing yellow boots or how many people are wearing green socks. Because ultimately, if I gather that information, are we going to get better with that information? Okay, so always keep that in mind. What we want to collect is what we want to know about our performance. Okay, so I always think in this continuum here. So starting on the left is what happened. So start thinking about what happened. Okay, how many shots had occurred? How many turnovers were there? How many tackles? How many kickouts? Can we start gathering that information? And as we said here, what happened? Okay, we collected our shots. Okay, guys, we had 24 shots today. Does that reach our target? Were we shooting as much as we normally shoot? Are we shooting up to what we can shoot? Okay, secondly, guys, thinking about who done it. So it's very valuable information to have an understanding of who's shooting, who's winning turnovers, who's winning tackles, who's winning our kickouts, or maybe even who's winning the opposition kickouts. Is there a target woman? Is there somebody who they're looking for? Okay, where did that happen? Okay, so where are we shooting from? Over time, your team, I'm sure that all the coaches here will have an understanding of their shooting area, their team shooting area, where some players have a capability to shoot from, and where sometimes we simply don't shoot from there. Okay, so where did that happen? So where's our shot? Where are we shooting from? Are we shooting within the range in which we discussed in our training? Are we turning over ball in the middle of the park, which is our team's philosophy, let's say? Are we winning ball inside the opposition's 45? Okay, so it's starting to start thinking what happened, who done it, where did it happen? And then, guys, a massive part is when did it happen? It can be very simply collected. Okay, was it in the first half? Was it in the second half? Was it in the first 15 minutes? Was it in the last 15 minutes? Okay, so over time, what I've kind of established is when did it happen is very important, okay? Because how a team plays the first 15 minutes may be different how a team plays the last 15 minutes, okay? Is our performance dropping down the last 15 minutes? And if so, if we have an understanding is that our performance wasn't up to our targets, let's say, in the last 15 minutes, then we can focus our attention on, let's look at the video. What actually happened here? And again, guys, the information that we're collecting is leading us back to the video. Because the video, again, show me, don't just tell me. Okay, guys, our performance dropped in the last 15 minutes there. It's not good enough. Silence. Okay, but what? What wasn't good enough? Can we have numbers to inform it? Can we go, let's say there was too many kick passes away. Let's look at the video. Why was there so many kick passes away? Was it down with the heavy legs? Again, what does that do? Informs practice going forward. What do we need to work on? Maybe it's some conditioning. Let's say our shooting dropped in the last 15 minutes. Let's look at the shooting. Was it a technical flaw? As we get tired, is our technique falling? Consequently, we're kicking loads of balls wide or short. Okay, so they're the questions that we want to start answering. Okay, and collecting this information will always facilitate that.
And on that, I suppose, we spoke about this, Glenn, we were planning that a lot of coaches always worry about, the first 15 minutes, and going out in the first half and letting it all out there. But in actual fact, at the end of the day, it's how you finish. Obviously, you want to stay in the game, but it's ultimately how you finish. Just that's my own philosophy. Glenn, on this continuum, and there's people here listening tonight, do you have to cover all four? Or would you say, do you know what, guys? If you're starting off, just look at what happened first. Just do those metrics and those variables first. And then as you get more confident in terms of logging stuff, would you then progress on down the continuum in terms of logging information? So what would you advocate there?
So personally, guys, the way I always look at it, like I'm sure everyone here they're on Twitter, on social media, they're looking at Sky Sports. Look at the analysis, look at the wealth of data that they're collecting in some sports. Let's say basketball, they're collecting so much information, they're so advanced. However, they've been doing it for years and years and years and years and years. If you're only starting off, if I've only got a little moped, I'm not going to jump onto a Harley Davidson the next day because that's what we do. Okay, so guys, sometimes even asking out the coaches there tonight, do you know how many on average, how many shots does your team have a game? On average, how many turnovers do we give away due to technical errors? How many kickouts are we winning? Okay, so starting answering simply just what happened will inform a lot of information going forward. When it's necessary, when we've kind of nailed that down, when we've done our practice, we can deliver this analysis reliably, we can do it consistently, and it's having its impact. When we kind of start to stagnate a little bit, we want more information, then we can take that next step. But this isn't something that's going to be developed overnight. Okay, so as we go through later on with some of the analysis templates that we're going to provide, you can see the first one is going to be just collecting, let's say, one variable. The second week, 2-3 weeks later, we may add in another thing when we're ready to do so. But it's always ask yourself the question, if you try to collect everything, you'll rapidly collect nothing. You'll get a paralysis by analysis. You start getting numbers wrong. I could be like, okay, we had 10 kickouts and we won 8. And the manager will be like, no, we actually won 7. The whole integrity that goes out the window then. So make sure only collect what we're capable to collect, and don't aspire to aspire to be the best analyst you can be, but you don't need to rush the process. Okay?
And Michael says there, Glenn, and I think you probably kind of answered. Michael mentions, like, when you're doing your analysis should be applicable to your game plan, or should it be general? From listening to you, it's applicable to your game plan, specific to what you're looking for.
Yeah. So again, as you said there, Michael, you talked about your game plan. Collect things and you have your game plan. What can you collect to answer the question?
Yes.
Did we follow the game plan? Did we implement the game plan? So for example, let's say we have game plan, okay, that we hold possession for long periods of time. What can we collect to inform that we kind of kill the games? Okay, so how long are we keeping possession? How many passes in our possession? Okay, if we, let's say, it could be multiple things, but like the main thing to always keep in mind is there's always going to be some general statistics that are good to collect. Like, let's say, what was the average in your league or in your championship? What was the average winning score in the in your grade championship last year? Okay, can we set that to the target to the girls? Okay, girls, this is what we want. Okay, we want to score 214 every single game. Okay, at least then they have something to work towards. As soon as that whistle blows, they're thinking, okay, let's score 214, let's score 214, let's score 214. Okay, if we say, girls, we want no more than 5 kick passes away, they're conscious before they actually make that decision. They're conscious of the targets that they're trying to reach, and ultimately the targets that we set is something to improve our performance. Yeah, it's always there to get better.
And before you go to the next slide, I suppose the first thing I'd say, Michael, and to everybody here, do you know what your game plan is? Like that, a lot of people have this kind of in their head, but like everybody should be able to answer after 30-40 seconds. If I said, what's your game plan? You should be able to ream it off fairly fast. What's our game plan? On the ball, off the ball. and also in our kick out. So I think having clarity on that first before we progress on. Sorry, Glenn, you want to move on there? Yeah.
And just before we progress on there, guys, so as you see what happened, we talk about shots, we talk about turnovers, tackles, kickouts, etc., etc., etc. If you're conducting analysis, it's very, very important that we clarify with the coach that what I'm calling a kick out is exactly the same as what William's calling a kick out. What I'm calling a kick pass away is exactly the same as what William's calling a kick pass away as an attack. Personally, I call an attack possession of the ball past the 45. Okay, somebody else may say an attack is 65. Somebody else may say it's 21. Like, it depends. Okay, so it's, if you're conducting analysis for a coach, make sure that you're on the same wavelength for the coach. At least then what you're delivering is valid and consistent. Okay, and again, with the research that we have conducted, there's a full set of operational definitions. So every variable, every aspect of the game, we held a focus group with all kind of experts of the sport, and they've basically informed our decision making on what we're calling. Okay, so straight in, guys, we're moving off our planning stage. And just before we go, I'd like to, William, would we like to say, is there any questions in regards to the Famine Phase just before we kind of race on here? You're on mute again, William, are you?
Apologies, I suppose, yeah, you know, if anybody wants to bring the chat function, do, guys, on the planning phase. What I'm learning, Glenn, is that I need to have clarity in my own mind as a coach of what is it we're looking for, or what is it we're looking for in terms of our game plan. And then what I'm learning is, okay, now I know what I'm looking for. Well, what are the variables or metrics that are going to help me inform how we're performing and provide that evidence? And also what I'll do then is, now that we have that, as female players, we know they want to improve and develop. We now have evidence to back up the information we're given. So I think that's what I learned.
Yeah, exactly. That's it in a nutshell. We could have said it all in 5 minutes, William, if you wanted. Super, guys. Okay, so progressing on here now. So we're going to talk about creating your analysis system. Okay, so I was very conscious. Me and William kind of sat down there last week and we're very conscious that we didn't want to come in here and show you loads of fancy computer analysis systems. We didn't want to show you Knack Sport or Buddle or Sports Code and things like that. Thing with that, it's going to cost money. Some clubs have video analysis. Some clubs have computerized analysis systems, but we have to try to include those who aren't at that level yet. How can we get the ball rolling that you can aspire to move on, let's say, the computerized analysis systems? If you're lucky enough to have it, there's a support with every one of these. Knack Sport, iSport Analysis, Performant. They provide fantastic support, guys. They will help you develop your analysis, okay? But for the purpose of what we're going to do here this evening is to make sure that it's everybody can get on board, even if it's the hobbyist, even if it's the parent that's rocking up. Can you even come up and collect a bit of information because it's something you're interested in? Can you sit down in the National League there now on the weekend or whatever and collect a bit of information to answer the questions of your own curiosity? Okay, so if we have a philosophy of what's happening in the game, maybe print off the sheet, maybe write down a couple of numbers and see if what you're actually saying with your subjective eye, can you objectify it and reinforce if it is happening, or is it just you're one of the panelists there, you're one of the keeping subjective opinions, okay? So notational analysis systems, guys, it's pen and paper. It's simply, we're going to provide you everything here now. It's all Word and Excel. Nearly everyone will have access to them softwares. Not everyone will have access to computerized analysis softwares. So we want to make sure that everyone's on the same page here. So creating your analysis system. The thing with notational analysis systems, also known as pen and paper systems, it's free and it's low barrier to entry. Okay, so I'm 100% sure everyone here tonight can access it, they can use it, they can practice it, and they can implement it. Okay, it's repeatable. So the notational analysis sheets that we're going to give you can be used week after week after week. We simply go into the Excel sheet, we print it, get the information, we print. It's on pen and paper. If you want, if you're tech savvy and you have an iPad, maybe you can start putting it into the iPad. Completely down to you. Okay, develop and adapt. So you can tailor your system as your team's, basically you can tailor it as to meet your team's requirements. Okay, so over time, there may be other questions that the coach has. Can we develop our system? You may find that our system is too complex. Can we adapt it? Take us some things out that what we're collecting, we can do it right. Okay. So we're going to go through some, William, do you want to go ahead there?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point you made. When I first started doing this, and I wouldn't be an expert in this area now, Glenn, to be very honest, you know, I went too complex. I go back to Michael's point, Michael. I was the guy who probably did general stuff. Jesus, I'm going to throw up all these variables. I actually found out, Michael, it confused the players. And there were a few meetings at the end of the year, they said, you know what, Will, can we just pick 4 or 5 from the 26 you have and go after them? And it was a great learning curve that, you know what, keep it simple rather than going too complex. I like that nugget of information you get.
Like even from my own experience, because when I started, Jesus, I came out of college and I was a bull coming out of the gate. I was absolutely raring to collect everything. So I was coming up to the coach and like, this is post game. So I'd sit down, I'd build my analysis template. And the coach would tell me he wants to find, let's say there's 3 aspects of the game that he wants to basically gain insight into. I'd collect everything. I'd collect that. So I'd collect absolutely everything. But then after a couple of weeks, I realized it's taken me a lot of time to collect this information. I'm always delivering what the coach wants, but I have this wealth of information that I'm just collecting for the sake of collecting. Okay, and I'm collecting because I think it's important, but sometimes it's really not. Okay, so always just find out the hierarchy of importance. What do we really want to know? What are those burning questions about performance? Start collecting them. When a new burning question, let's maybe add it in. Maybe we can stop collecting a couple of things. We find out that we don't actually use it, so we stop collecting it. Okay.
I think there Rob says, pen and paper is great until it rains. Yeah, Rob, and that's a true story because I was, we used to kind of, skills testing and stuff. Where I went into a kind of a printing area, and there's actually kind of little special paper you can get, kid, that when you're note taking and stuff, that if it rains, it doesn't actually smear. And I actually didn't realize that sort of kind of, I suppose resources were available. So there's always ways around things, Rob. There's always ways around.
The thing, I'll tell you one thing now, Rob, right? So pen and paper, if it rains, gets wet, we print off another one. I won't be printing off any iPads or computers. Trust me, I don't know how many iPads I put in bags of rice and put it into the hot press because they're ruined. Okay, so a little tip now, this is a bit of a crazy tip. This wasn't on the agenda, let's say, but I'd wear a belt. If I know it's going to rain, I'll always wear a belt. And I'll bring an umbrella and I tuck the belt into the back of my jeans and I tighten the belt really, really hard at least. And I have my 2 hands and the umbrella's above my head. Then we talk about rain. Then it could be windy and the wind will blow it and I'm really getting taken away like Mary Poppins. But that's a different story.
Actually, Rob has said that. That's what he does.
Is it? Jesus, tricks of the trade.
I was wondering, Rob, what you were saying. I was going, what is Rob on about? But actually, he said the same thing. He has the belt, the spear belt and the umbrella. He said it's not a great look, but it does work. So, Jesus, yeah, okay.
Now, Rob, you wouldn't believe me that I actually haven't got the chat function on my page. I didn't even see that now.
Yeah, Jesus, so I learned something new today. Rob, I thought you were taking the mickey out of me, but anyway.
No, seriously, yeah, I'd wear an extra belt and I'd be tying the umbrella to me. Brilliant. Okay, guys, so we're going to progress on. We're going to go through a couple of scenarios here now. Okay, so we're going to kind of take a step away and really go into the nits and gritty of, okay, so we're talking about what to collect, how to collect it and everything. But when the coach comes to you, we need to start teasing out what we want to collect. Okay, so as you see here, there's Mick Bowen there. Mick Bowen came to me and let's say, he said, I would like to gain some insight into how we are losing possessions. Okay, are we losing our possession from kick passes, hand passes? Are we losing it from shooting? Are we losing it from tackle? Who's winning our turnovers? Okay, so ultimately, guys, when we talk about to inform training and practice, in there with the second question, are we losing possession from kick passes, hand passes away? If we have an understanding, if we can collect a bit of information over time, we've developed a trend that the vast majority of our, let's say 50% of our turnovers are down to kick passes away. Ultimately, what that's going to do, it's going to inform what we do in training, what we do in practice, planning our training sessions, coming out with coaching plans, coming out with, okay, this is what we're going to do for the training plan for the year. The analysis can inform on the aspects of the game of our strengths, maybe some of our weaknesses, but more importantly, it can focus our attention on that we're not just going out aimlessly week in, week out, doing the same sort of drills, that we know what's happening when we play the game, and we're going to focus on aspects on how to get better. We focus on aspects of what is our style of play, what's our philosophy, are we reaching that? Are we basically working to our philosophy? So as you see here, guys, we have a team sheet. Okay, so can you see my little cursor here, Will, yeah?
I can see it. It's a blue one. Yeah.
It is indeed. It is indeed. Super, guys. So what I'd normally do here, so I'd get the team sheet off the manager, okay? And I'd fill in here all the players' names. Okay? 90% of the time, you're going to know who the players are by their hair color, by their height, by anything. Okay? But you put the player's name in here. We have turnovers won, turnover lost. So how are we winning the ball? How are we losing the ball? So for example here, so turnover 1, interception, number 15. Okay, so I'd put the number in here. If you don't want to collect the player numbers, it may be a little bit difficult to collect the number as well. I just simply put a tick in here. I'd put a tick. The next one I'd put a tick, a tick, a tick. At least then at the end, I can have an understanding that when we're winning ball, Are we winning it through interceptions, or are we winning through contact tackles? When we're losing ball, are we losing it through kick passes? Are we losing it through hand passes? Are we losing it through tackle? Are we losing it through, let's say, shot short or shot wide, or not shot wide, so shot shorts, shot saved, or shot block, or whatever, okay? So even collecting this for a couple of weeks, we're going to have an understanding on how we're losing the ball. Why am I using turnovers? Again, we're coming back because it's with the information that the coach wants, okay? So, and again, coming down to definitions, guys, what are we calling a foot pass away? I'm sure every club in the country would have a different operational definition or a different opinion on that. But the only one that matters is that everyone on your team is on the same wavelength, and you and the manager are on the same wavelength. And that's communicated. We're not going to keep this under lock and key that this is what we're calling it. We're not going to tell anyone else. Okay, we need to make sure that if I'm telling, let's say, Sarah now on our meeting on Wednesday, that our kick passes have been absolutely fantastic. She hasn't given one away in 3 weeks. Or even if our kick passes are on the rise, kick passes away. What is a kick pass away? And it's communicating that to the players that what we're collecting, we've defined it. Everyone is clear on what we're delivering here. Okay.
Just there, so, Michael says there, he goes, could this sort of data affect performance if it's personalized? So if players feel it's personalized, so therefore, look, number 15 gave away the ball 10 times. Oh, Jesus. The point, I suppose it goes back to having an understanding from the very outset of why we're doing what we're doing. And there's buy-in from the very start, Michael, that we're doing this to better performance, and this is what's involved. I think clarity at the very start would be very important, Glenn, that everybody is aware of why you're doing what you're doing.
Like what I always come back to is, Michael, it's kind of, everybody knows, we have a panel of, let's say, 26, 27 girls. Everybody knows who are the strong-willed players on that team that we kind of can spur them on by telling them to work harder. We also know the players on that team that if we tell them they're not working hard enough, it will absolutely kill their self-esteem. They'll be knocked down. So we always, like, the larger coaching aspects and everything we know about how to coach our team, how to manage our team, our people skills, don't forget that just for the sake of analysis. Maybe personally, if somebody told me I gave 6 kick passes away, I'm going to keep working on it. I'm going to keep working on that till I get better. However, some other people may feel attacked. Okay, so it comes down to really knowing your players. We're going to talk about feedback. It's knowing what feedback to give. I'm not going to put this up on a big piece of paper for everybody to see on who's losing kick passes. Because ultimately, I have to ask myself, what benefit is that going to do? What benefit is me telling everybody who's losing the ball? To the coaching team, this is very beneficial because I know what players on my panel I need to kind of tailor. Let's say we need to put a little bit more work into Sarah's kick passing. Okay, not everybody needs to know that, but I know as a coach, for my team to develop, for my players to develop, for my players to get better, this information informed the aspects in which we should be focusing our attention.
I think it's a very good answer, Tim. I think it's very good. And I think you're right before you go to the next slide in terms of knowing your players, but also we know from research that girls don't like being, I suppose, highlighted in front of their peers. So this information is for you only, really, to, I suppose, give the feedback. And you're giving the feedback in a general sense, but then you give the feedback one-to-one where required, where it's more beneficial in terms of improving the player. Yeah.
And as Michael, we'll be talking about feedback now as we go on, so at least then we can kind of flesh it out a little bit more. Right now, Sarah, William, before we progress.
I'm just reading here, Robert says, we did sample stats last year with under 14s. After every match, we gave the girls one positive and one room to improve. And then for the whole team, we listed the positives and areas of improvement and focus on training for the next few weeks. To me, that's very good, Robert, in terms of your feedback is it's constructive and it's very positive in its approach. So knowing your group, knowing what age group you're coaching and how you give that feedback, which you're going to hit shortly as well, is very important. It's not all about, you don't have to be negative all the time, but we'll hit that shortly. Thanks, Robert.
That's brilliant. Super. Okay, guys, so just before we progress, this sheet is going to be sent to you. Okay, so this, again, guys, this isn't, we're not, no Da Vinci Code, no hiding this information for you. At the end, I'm going to drop it in. There's going to be an Excel sheet. There's going to be a couple of tabs down the bottom with 1 variable, 2 variable, 3, 4, 5, as far as you want to go. Okay, so as we see here, there's 1 variable here, it's turnovers. We want to look at turnovers. The coach only wants to know about turnovers. I'm going to give turnovers. Okay, so we have Eamon here. Eamon wants a little bit more information. Eamon wants insight on our turnovers, shooting, and kick out. He wants to have an understanding on who is winning our kick out. Okay, where are the kick outs going? And how many wides do we have? Okay, so we had very specific questions there. Okay, so again, guys, I have my team sheet with the players' names. If we don't want to know, let's say who's winning our kick out, I could take this out because I literally just want to find out what happened. Always go back to that continuum. What happened? Who, where, when. Okay, we can take some things out here. If the who isn't important, we can get rid of this. Okay, if the when is important, maybe we have one sheet for the first period, the second sheet for the second period, third, fourth. We can have 4 sheets, or we can have 2 for first half, second half. At least then we can compare what was our first half stats, what was our second half stats. Was there an increase? Was there a decrease? What happened? And this is to inform that discussion. Okay, so again, guys, I'm not going to go over the turnover because it's very similar to the last sheet. But again, here we are is shooting. Okay, so we're collecting our goals, points, wides, goal saving, the block, drop short, and did it come from place ball, for example. Okay, we could have shot posts in there as well, if you like. Okay, so when we're creating our system, always think about when there's a shot. It's not, we could have literally successful or unsuccessful. We could have a score, or we could have a miss, or we could go a little bit deeper. But if I was to tell you that we had 20 shots, 10 scores, 10 misses, the 10 miss, we don't exactly know what that miss was. Okay, was it a shot short? Was it a shot wide? Because to get better on our misses, that information, that detail is very important on how to inform our training going forward. If we find out that 70% of our shots drop short, that can inform that we can work on our shooting to alleviate that. Let's say if it's shot wides, if there's a certain player who's kicking loads and loads of shot wides, this is a reoccurring issue. Well, as a management team, can we go in and we can start, let's have a look at that technique a little bit closer. Okay, Sarah, can you kick 10 balls here for me? And we can see maybe she's pulling a little bit to the left, maybe she's pulling a little bit to the right. But without having that understanding of that she's kicking balls wide, we can't diffuse the problem. Having an understanding of what's happening can allow us to basically get better. Over here with kickouts, so we're simply, what I do in here, I just put a tick. So if we have a kick out 1, tick, kick out lost, tick. At the end, I could say there was 6 won, 2 lost, we had 8 kickouts. We won 6 out of 8. Over here, I simply just put a dot. I put a dot for 1, or I put an X for lost. If I have a 4-color pen, I put a green for a 1 or an X for a lost. What this basically does is there a trend when the game is happening? Is there a trend with our kickouts? Are we going to the same place all the time? Are we winning them? Okay, we went 6 times to the left and it's all 6 ticks. We went 3 times to the right and it's all X's. We can tell the girl, okay, maybe there's something happening over on that right side there, girls. Okay, we keep on losing kick out over there. Maybe we go, say, to the left or something, or what's happening. But again, it's gathering that information to give to the management team so they can devise a plan to go out in that second half. Over here, opposition kickouts. Where are they kicking the ball? If they had 10 kickouts, I'm sure there's going to be a trend of where they went. There may not be, but again, as we progress up through the grades and everything, a lot of the keepers now, they have a plan. They have a set, like the kick out is a very important part of our game. It's really starting to evolve. It's like, from a tactical point of view, most of the possessions are going to start from a kick out. So how are they starting from a kick out? Are they going long? Are they going short? Are they going left? Are they going to the right? Okay, so it's them type of question that we want to answer. Before we go on, William, is there anything there?
No, it's just very simplistic, Lynn.
Yeah,
it's I was talking to my own John coach there during the week. I'm going to be using these templates over the coming weeks and see their consistency over a group of games. But they're so simplistic in nature, aren't they, Glenn? Like,
they can be very well. They can be very easy. Like, and again, guys, it's like building this. To be honest, I'm not going to lie to you. It takes a bit of time building them. It's just kind of the form. It's the tedious stuff. It's the tedious stuff of kind of coming in and making sure the boxes fit and there's a way that's going to print out right and all. But I've done all the tedious stuff to give you now. All you need to figure out is what do I want to collect. Let's say you don't want to know about shooting. I'm literally going to come up here and I'm going to take shooting out of that box. I'm going to type something else in. I'm going to type it in here to answer the question that we want to know. Okay, so as William said, guys, it's very simplistic. Get in and try it. Get in and give it a bash, okay? Progressing on here now. Again, we have Maxi Curran here. And Maxi came to me with a question, let's say, I'd like to gain some insight on possession origins and outcomes. So this kind of a sequence of play, okay? So when we get the ball, where are we getting it? What do we do with it? It kind of takes everything into consideration, okay? How are we gaining our possession? Are we gaining it most of our balls in our defensive third, midfield third, attacking third? How many times are we winning ball in the middle of the park? How many times we win the ball in the attacking third? Because if we're going out there, okay, because we really want to use a high press set, we want to win that ball up nice and high up through the field. That was our philosophy. That's how we wanted to play the game. Collecting these numbers, we'll be able to give an objective measure to the girls. Okay, this is working. Okay, we came out here, we wanted to press high. Look, we won 8 ball in the middle of the park today. They're not even getting near opposition 45. So we had a plan. We're giving them information on the plan, whether it's working, whether it's not working. And it's ultimately, it's just having that conversation. It's having that narrative. It's supporting the performance. Okay. And what are we doing with our possessions? So over here, simple little keys, guys. So OKO is own kickout. OPKO is opposition kickout, not own, apologies. TO, turnover. TI, throw in. Most, to be honest, I very, very regularly forget to add in TI, how frequent the team score directly off a throw in. That's it. Okay, but here, so if we won the ball in our defensive third from a turnover, I'd put TO in here. So this is my first possession, second possession, third possession, fourth possession, fifth. When I am doing these type of analysis templates, I print off up to, I think it's 5 pages, and that will give me up to 50 possessions. Because some games, teams will have 50 possessions. But again, do we need to collect the information? This is kind of a little bit more advanced, and to kind of get to this, you're obviously going to start off. We don't need to jump in here right away because we're going to forget what TOKO, but some people maybe have to just pick this up and run away with it, okay? So we're looking at where we're getting the ball, how we're getting the ball. When we have it, what's the outcome? Are we getting points from it? Are we getting scores from it? Are we getting turned over from it? And again, simply putting the number in here, guys, will give us an understanding of the outcomes of our possessions, who's scoring, who's causing turnovers. Maybe massive information on turnovers is not what we want to know. We want to know something about the game, something what's happening. Is there something specifically happening here today? Who's winning the ball, who's losing the ball? Is there a trend? And ultimately, that will facilitate answering that question. William, anything there before we progress?
No, I just like the different layers, and you can, I suppose you can dip into this where you're most comfortable with. So I'll be dipping into the first template. You get me, Glenn? Because I need to practice. And what I might do at the weekend, if I'm watching a game on TV, I might print it out and I might start with that process. Whereby here, I think I need to be a bit more comfortable before I start going to there. Do you know what I mean? So it's really you dip in where you're more comfortable in it and take it from there. I think Eddie said there, a biro with 4 different colors in it. Jesus, Eddie, I'd be confused trying to click all the different colors. So I confuse my job. I'd waste time doing that. So any biro will do. But yeah, if you're going
to show you, because this isn't, I'm going to show you a sheet from the other night. This isn't just, now this just isn't all me telling you what you want to hear. Okay. As you can see, there's the sheets from the other night. Okay. So this is exactly what I use. Okay. Because again, I know how to use computer analysis software. I have access to computer analysis software. But I can answer the questions that the coach wants. I can deliver what he wants to know with pen and paper. Why reinvent the wheel? There's a reason why the wheel hasn't changed in hundreds of years, because it has a purpose and it serves the purpose. Okay, so always think about that. Just because you see these professional teams using all this fancy software and everything, there's no, maybe if we're going to start analysis, there's an entry level here. And then when we need to progress, we can progress. Okay, progressing on, practicing. Okay, so guys, practice makes permanent. Practice makes perfect. I always say practice makes permanent. Okay, if we want our players to develop a skill, what do we get them to do? Go out to the wall ball alley and let's practice. Okay, it's the same thing with this. Just because you have it now doesn't mean that you're gonna just be able to miraculously just be able to do it. It's like anything, you need to practice. Okay, so practice your analysis system is going to be vital to deliver reliable analysis. Again, if I'm collecting information and it's not reliable, it's not worth the paper it's written on. It doesn't mean anything. If we're given information that's wrong, we can start leading teams down the wrong path. We can start leading your management team to think there's something happening when there's not. Okay, so ultimately, guys, how do we practice? Well, you all know how we practice. We all know how to practice. Okay, so if you head over to the YouTube channel and basically the LGFA YouTube channel, all the games are there. It's a fantastic resource, guys. There's so many access. There's access to so many games there. What I always like to do when I develop or I make a change to my new analysis system is I download the video. I have 15 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to use my system. I'm going to record 15 minutes of the game. Grab another sheet. I'll play the game again. Do 15 minutes. What I see in the first 15 minutes and what I see in the second 15 minutes, is it the same? If I find out it's not the same, then we need to practice more. Maybe we don't need to practice. Maybe there's something that we're trying to collect that we're not too sure on what we're defining it. Okay, so going back to be very clear on what we're calling what. Okay, so over from experience conducting analysis, guys, there's always going to have that conversation of a kick pass away. Who's at fault if a kick pass is played in and the player just didn't make the run? I don't know. Okay, so personally, I'd have the conversation with the coach. We're here the analyst is going to be here to serve the team, serve the players. What do they believe? Okay, I'm here to give them information on their performance. What do they call it? Okay, obviously, as an analyst, you're going to bring a lot of opinions and you're going to bring stuff from research and all to the table. You may bring a lot of experience. But again, if you're clashing heads with what you're calling something with the coach, it's what we want to do is, again, create performance knowledge and create opportunities for this to be used. If we're clashing heads over a definition, we're not actually getting anywhere. We're just going in circles. Okay. So practicing your analysis system will allow you to get familiar with your layout. Okay. So as you can see, there may be, if I just jump back really quick here, there's columns for turnover ones, columns for turnover lost. If we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we have 7 columns for shooting. Do I know which column is which? Right away here, you can see the green. There's a reason why traffic lights are green, red, and orange. Okay, because green to me, positive. Red to me, negative. That's why it's green and red. Okay. So are we collecting too much? So you may find, remember we said, don't collect too much, because there's going to be a trade-off between detail and what we can actually collect. Okay, so you might find that you're trying to collect so many things that you're actually not collecting it reliably. So let's take a few things out, and can we do that reliably? And ultimately, guys, when we're looking at our basically practicing our analysis system with the output, with the information that I can get from the end of my analysis system, does it answer the question? So if the coach came to me with a question, I collected his information. Does this answer his question? Does it not? Does it maybe? Do you need to add another layer in? Do you need to take a layer out that you're not using? But just thinking a couple of things like that. That's okay. Excuse me. And adapting and developing your analysis system. Okay, so this is the last 2 parts before we just progress on to feedback. So as you progress, guys, you may realize that you may need to adapt. You may need to put things in, take things out. But as we progress, the coach may need new insight. Okay, so over time, we may need to know the next level. So if we're just collecting the frequency of how many turnovers are, after time, we may have a burning question of who. So we add that layer in, we developed it. You may find we added 4 things in that week. It's not working, let's adapt it, let's take a couple of things out. Okay, so it's pretty much common sense there, guys. But again, how do we do it? We go into the Excel template, and we literally, what I always like to do is right-click, copy, right-click, paste. At least then, when I make changes to the second one, if something goes wrong, I can always have my master copy there. Okay, but if we're changing the one sheet week, if something goes wrong, we can't go back to what we had the week before. So always version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4, version 5. And another thing, it's really, really good to see, like when I'm looking at my ladies football analysis templates, I'm on version, I think it's version 71 or 72 now. It's 2 years work. But every time I make a change, I save it, I copy it, I save it, I copy it. For myself, it's great to look back on how far I came with my analysis, but it's also good that if a coach comes to me and he just wants a simple thing, I can go back. I have templates there. I'm building up basically what I call an analysis toolbox. Okay. So I won't dwell any further on that, guys. We're going to progress on here to developing feedback. So, but just before I go on to developing feedback, is there any questions on basically the continuum there we talked about planning our system, creating it, practicing it, adapting it, and delivering? Is there anything there?
I think it's just the simplicity and the nature of it again, and just keep it as simple as you want for yourself. Yeah, if there's anybody, guys, in the chat function, please, before Glenn goes into the final section. Yeah, please use the chat function if you have any questions, and I'll pose them to Glenn at the end of the next slide or two.
And a lot of people, there's a big thing here that guys will be talking about, oh, but I'm already doing this. I do this on the back of a Tesco receipt there or whatever, over an envelope that they found in the car. That's analysis. But what we want to do here is to give you tools to kind of take it to the next step. I'm sure a lot of people are already doing this. I'm sure every single club will have that real club member who comes in with his pen and paper and he's collecting the insight, he's writing down who's scoring and everything. That's analysis. Okay, but these type of things, the templates and everything here, will just kind of start bringing a consistent manner to it. It's going to start objectifying it, that we can really get it reliable. Okay, delivering feedback. Okay, so this is a massive part here. We've collected our information. What's next? It doesn't just end here. If we go back to what we want to achieve, is create knowledge and design opportunities to be used and understood. We've already created the knowledge now. We need to give them the opportunities to learn. We need to give them the opportunities to understand what we're talking about and use this information. So an example of some performance knowledge. So we've collected shots and scores, let's say, for 6 weeks. And we've gained insight that we're creating loads of shooting opportunities, but we aren't scoring. William, from your experience, if we're shooting loads and we're not scoring, what are you doing in training on Tuesday?
I presume when practicing, my execution. of the scores.
Yeah,
but by execution.
Yeah, exactly. But if we didn't collect that information, maybe we wouldn't have known. But obviously, that's a very simplistic.
No, just that you know that wasn't plenty. Glenn just threw that at me. So I hope I got the right answer, Glenn.
All right, Angus. Yeah, but again, guys, like obviously with shooting and scoring, there's going to be some aspects of the game that are going to be jump off the page right away. If we kick 12 wides, you're going to know you kick 12 wides.
Yeah.
But it's kind of to objectify, give a number, stick a number to it. Okay. And as opposed to saying our shooting was really bad today, how really bad was it? When our shooting was really good, what is really good?
What is good?
Give a number. What's the number that's really good? Without getting too bogged down in numbers, but it's giving people an understanding that this is what good looks like. Okay.
And with this stuff, Glenn, these are questions you could, instead of giving the answers, go back to your point earlier on, you're saying telling doesn't work. 10% of coaching is only facilitation and guiding at the moment. Can we raise a percentage? Why not we just throw the question out, before we go training, throw out that question to the players, get them into groups. I guarantee you they'll come back with the answers and how to solve it.
Yeah. Yep. So again, guys, here we are. We aren't winning our own kickouts. How did I gain that information? I collected kickouts and kickouts won. Okay, we witnessed a breakdown and play from midfield to attack. How did I collect that? I collected how many times we played the ball in to the 45 and how many times we kept it. Okay, so we can go really complex with this if you want, but again, start off here. If you have questions, find a way to answer that question. There's no, don't feel constrained. If you want to answer something, find a way to answer it. Okay, delivering feedback. Okay, so what to deliver, when to deliver it, and how. Okay, so during the match, guys, it's very important with all the insight that we deliver, any feedback that we give, it's actionable insight. Okay, we're not going to give insight and going to deliver feedback on things that can't change. Okay, so what we're delivering back is something that we can act upon. Okay, so we give information that we can act, which leads ultimately to better decision making and better outcomes. Okay, so our last three turnovers were into second. Okay, there's something that we can work on then. What do we work on? Maybe we need to get first to the ball. We need to be out. We need to be out in front of that defender. We need to be standing in front. Okay, but without collecting information, maybe we wouldn't know how frequent that is happening. We'd have an understanding that we're losing turnover. But is there more understanding here to why we're losing turnover? How we're losing turnover? Who's losing turnover? Half time, I believe you said Rory put into the chat there. He had an experience that he gave. One good point, one something to work on, and maybe two good points and one thing to work on. Okay, guys, it's the same thing here. It's 2 to 3 main points. Are we meeting our targets set? What are targets? Okay, so if we can give girls, we've collected 10 games, we have an average of how many shots we can have a game. When they come in at halftime, can we tell them, keep it up? We're halfway there to our target. It's just keeping something in mind. Okay, we set a target today to score 1-7 before halftime. We've reached that target. Okay, so 60-minute game, 30 minutes, we've already reached half what we just need to go out and perform in the second half. Okay, main thing here at halftime, guys, it's don't overload the players. If you're an analyst working within a coaching setup, blend into the background. You're there to facilitate and help the team and the players. You are not the focal point. Okay, massively don't, because if you're coming up and you have your sheet and you have all the numbers, you know what's happening. Maybe there's going to be a half one day that the coach doesn't need your information. He knows what's happening. But you're there to help him. You're there to facilitate him. You're here to give him information. If he doesn't ask for it, maybe it comes down to that relationship with the coach. But don't go over pester him. Maybe have 10 minutes at halftime. Don't be over there pestering him, trying to get your point across if he already knows what's happening. Okay, so it's things like that. Main thing, don't overload the players, guys. Post-match, we're going to go back to this again. Don't just tell me, show me. What are the key takeaways? What did we learn from that performance? Can we look at the video? Can we show the video of the positives? This is okay, guys. This is what we've been working on. We have a video. This is you doing it. This is fantastic. Okay. State the insight. Okay. So we showed them the video of an aspect that we want to work on. Tell them some numbers. Give them a number to really objectify it. Did we meet the target? Did we not meet the target? And start the discussion. Okay. We're not there to be regurgitating information, to tell them how much we know, to tell them that I think we should do this. I've been telling you for weeks to do this, and right, we've done this and we've done that. Maybe show them the video. Here's all our kick passes away. Okay, girls, we gave 8 kick passes away in Wednesday. That's a 20% increase from our target. Okay, what happened? Straight away, don't forget, the players were the ones on the pitch playing the game. They have the answers. We're there to facilitate teasing out that information. They're going to start having conversations. And as soon as it starts, There's no better feeling that you kind of showed them the video. You've gave them some insight on what aspect of the game we're looking at, and then you start talking. Right away, they're going to have a conversation. Right away, they're going to start getting better. They're going to have an understanding of, but when I'm rolling around that corner, you know, I'm dropping the shoulder to let the defender go there, but I'm really going over there, having that conversation. As you can see in the video, that happened 3 times. This is really where I want the ball. Okay, but it's having them conversations, it's having the discussion. And ultimately, that discussion is going to allow us to progress. Is there anything there with feedback, William, before?
Just at that one, I suppose, what I learned, you know, is asking the right questions, posing them to the players, and let the players find the solutions. You know, but asking the right questions. I love throughout. You're always saying, ask the question, ask the questions. And you know yourselves, guys, if you look back at the previous webinars, we had one involving players in this decision-making process. It's about coaches' the ability to ask questions, the right questions. So I think that was a good learning there. Anything? What's coming through here is we have just. I think is this your? Have you another slide? Or is that it, Glenn?
I think we have one more slide and then a wrap.
Okay. So Robert says, if you record starts in 4 matches, do you have a dashboard ready to compare matches easily? So yeah, I suppose having a dashboard, if you're that advanced, having a dashboard to be able to compare results fairly easily would be handy. Dave Cullen says, hi Glenn, do you find post-match feedback is taken on the board, is not taken on board, and it's better to provide feedback at the next training session? So basically what Dave is saying is wait to the next training session to when they've digested their feedback. I think that's a good point, Dave. My practice is I kind of get them to reflect on the performance and Joe, what we'll discuss on Tuesday night. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, Glenn. And the other one is, Trevor, when shown the video, is it shown to the individual players who made the errors or to the group?
So let's say first with the video, if we had, I'd show all the video. Obviously, you have to be very smart with this, guys. Again, it comes down to knowing your players, knowing your team, knowing who's going to have a positive reaction to X, Y, or Z, and who's going to have a negative reaction to X, Y, and Z. Okay, so if we had 10 kick passes away, 9 of them from the same player, maybe that's not the best video to show because they're in a big group. Maybe the players separate. You can have a conversation saying, you don't have to give her a number. You don't have to tell her that 9 out of the 10 were due to her. Maybe you can just tell her that, I'm sure she knows this information already. I'm 100%, I can guarantee you she knows this information already that her kick pass wasn't up this week. Ultimately, we know the information, the coaching team knows the information, the player knows the information. Let's devise a plan to get better. But without that information, we wouldn't have known. The player would have known, but she's not going to come to tell you that she gave so many ball away.
So it's not really kind of, highlighting someone in front of the group. You might show 1 or 2, but you're kind of saying, listen, guys, we need to improve our retention of the ball. And just here's 1 or 2 examples where it did go awry. And you might actually pick 1 or 2 from other players as well, but you're getting the point across versus to the group. But obviously the individual players know, obviously, where they need to improve on. And that could be a 1-to-1 conversation in a more respectful manner.
But rule of thumb with kind of showing the videos, always keep it positive. Always keep it positive. Even if we gave 12 kick passes away, but if you're flicking through them videos and you find out 3 of those kick passes away were actually kick passes away that we're trying to implement an attacking strategy. Show them videos. Okay, girls, here's a couple of kick passes away. As you can see, we really try. I can see you, Sarah. You're coming around the corner. You're trying to do what we're working in training last week. That's brilliant. But what can you do the next time? Ask them a question. What do you think you should have done to get to that ball the first time? Or I should have left a little bit earlier. Asking
those questions, asking loads of questions, getting people to think about their performance. And then the other one, Bear, before we go to the last slide, in terms of would you leave the analysis to the Tuesday night rather than overloading after games?
I would. It comes down to a massive thing. It's context. Okay, so if we went win a championship final, the players, trust me, the players aren't interested in stats after that game. Okay, they're worried and getting out and having a party or whatever. Okay, sometimes it was a terrible performance. Okay, girls, we'll talk about it Tuesday. It really comes down to knowing your players, knowing your context. Maybe what I always like to do post-match is tell them if you reached their targets, if you didn't reach your targets. Okay, we went out there with 5 targets. Okay, girl, we have 4 out of our 5 targets. Our kick pass was a bit straight today. We'll reflect on Tuesday. We don't have to start bringing out videos and everything after a match. We want to get home. We can reflect on it. Let them reflect on it. And there's
so
one thing there.
You're giving them a kind of a quick synopsis.
A quick synopsis.
And then we'll say, listen, we'll talk about it more Tuesday night. But also, Glenn, sorry, no, this is another question. I've been involved in teams whereby we've reached all our targets and we still lost the game.
Yeah, so there's.
Do you know what I mean? Like
this isn't
But you could, though. You could reach your targets, just that the other group had they're just a different level.
And that's the thing. That's the thing with sport. Sport. That's why we all love sport so much, because it's dyadic. It changes. So many things can happen. Although you've set your targets, you went out and reached your targets, and we still lost. Well, hats off to the opposition, because they played great. Like that's sport. We're not like that. That's it. And what's the key takeaway from them instances? Because we performed how we wanted to perform. Exactly. We are getting better. We are progressing. Rome wasn't built in a day.
Exactly.
That's the main thing. And there was one thing. There was the first question there. I'm very eager to get this, because I know exactly where. So we're talking about, we've collected the information by putting it into a dashboard. What I always like to do is I collect on the sheet, I tally it up really quick at the bottom, and I'd have a tablet. Okay, so I'd have a tablet and I'd have an Excel sheet, and I'd have a sheet that literally says data entry. I'd have shots, an empty box, kick out, empty box, etc., all the variables I'm collecting. I'd have a sheet beside that. That's a fancy dashboard, and in all them empty boxes, I'd have equals a cell from the sheet before that. So it's just, I type in 10 numbers really quick, and then I have a dashboard. If you have a target, let's say we set a target for 10, we can conditional format the following dashboard, basically, that if it's over 10, it's red.
Yeah.
If it's below 10, it's green. So as soon as I show that to the players, we can see how many red, how many green. Because we're programmed to know that green is positive and red is negative. If you see loads of reds, something's not working. If you see loads of greens, something's working. If you see a couple of oranges, this is something that we need to be aware of here. We're not just there yet, but it's something we need to think about. Okay, so it's just a couple of things there. And again, please don't hesitate to drop me an email. I have stuff there. I'd be more than happy to help you.
I wouldn't be saying that out loud now.
I haven't seen how many are on the call now. I could regret that in the morning.
I won't miss.
So progressing on there, guys, delivering feedback and tracking the performance. Okay, so it's without needless to say, one performance is not going to be an accurate representation of the whole what we do. You don't go out and analyze one game and that's set in stone, because every game is going to be different. But over time, tracking the information allows us to kind of benchmark our performance. What does good look like? When we win games, is there a trend there? Another thing is, are we getting better? If we're working on something in training, can we answer the question is, can we even put up a line graph, a line chart, let's say? Okay, girls, the first game in league, this is our turnover rate. So our turnover rate is, let's say, turnovers divided by total possessions. Okay, so this is what we're like at the start of the season. This is what we're like 5 games later. As you can see, we're keeping 60% more of the ball than we did at the first season, or 20% or 30%. But again, it's really showing the players that yous are progressing, yous are getting better. Okay, and is there a trend from our winning performances? When we win games, what does that look like? When we lose games, is there a trend? Is there a consistent trend that when we win, this is what we do? And again, that will be a key performance indicator, because that's something that maybe you should be collecting at your live performances, because you know that when we win, this is what we do. So let's measure this. Let's set a target and let's say we reach that target. So simply, guys, what I do here, I'd have game 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. What I do, I'd put in my numbers here. The next week, I put in my numbers here. The following week, in and in and in and in. And all you can do then is you can literally make a graph of these numbers. You can formulate an Excel graph that all you have to do is come in here, type in the number, and it's going to give you a chart. At least then you can see, again, show me, don't tell me. Maybe show them a chart. Maybe show them a bar chart of their progression. Or maybe show them a bar chart of how many kickouts they're winning, or etc. Whatever. Okay? So storing and tracking information, guys. When you track, it's going to develop a benchmark, and that benchmark is going to inform our targets. Okay. Key takeaways. So I'm just going to wrap it up really quick and open the board to questions. Okay. So ultimately, when we're conducting analysis, we want to create performance knowledge and design opportunities for this information to be used and understood. Main thing, don't just tell me, show me. If you have the capabilities to have video, show them the video. Ask the questions. Collect what the coach needs. That's where I always start off. What are the questions that you want to answer? Collect that, and then start including your general stuff and what more you want to know. Practice, practice, practice. It's like, if I want to learn how to kick a 45, I'm going to practice kicking a 45. If I want to get better at analysis systems, I'm going to practice my analysis systems. I'm not going to dwell on that. That's pretty straightforward. Deliver actionable insight. Can the analysis that you're conducting, can it be used to inform training and practice? Can we collect the information that we know in the forthcoming weeks? This is our strengths, this is our weaknesses, this is what we should be working on. Or even, can it inform past training? Okay, so we worked on kick-out strategies for 6 weeks. Now we have an understanding that it's working. Again, it's just informing, having them discussions. and tracking performances over time. The sheets, a simple Excel sheet, week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, track the performance over time, answer the question, are we getting better? Okay, guys, and that is a wrap. So thank you very, very much. And there's the email and Twitter again. I'm sure you can see I'm eager to anything I can do, anything at all. Drop me an email. There's a lot of research. Most of the research that I'm conducting, I put onto my Twitter. There's lots of infographics there. It's really easy and understandable piece of information. And there's plenty more research to come. Okay, so if you want to stay up to speed on the research, there's the Twitter. And yeah, I'd like to thank William and everyone. Thank
you very much. And I suppose it goes back to previous webinars on our LGFA YouTube channel, guys. Give a look at how to involve players in the decision-making process. We're always promoting, can you provide evidence to your players that they're improving, developing? If you can do that, don't worry, the outcome won't be if you lose a game, you can show progression. I think, players really buy into that. John says we have a huge variety of teams in our league. Very tough games and less tough. Might score 25 scores in one, 10 in another. The apparently worst performance may be actually the better team effort. And that's true. How do you suggest breaking this down, Glenn? So I don't know if you see that. We have a huge variety of teams in our league. Some are very tough games, some are less tough. We might score 25 in one, 10 in the other. The apparently worst performance may be actually be a better team effort. How do you suggest breaking that down?
Yeah, so what I always like to do is sit down, as you said, you may have 20 teams in your league, 10 are really strong, 10 are on the weaker side. I'd split them and I'd have 2 tracking sheets. I'd have targets for when we're playing stronger teams, targets for when we're playing weaker teams. So what's our target? So obviously we may have a target, we may all understand that if our target is for 20 shots a game, but we're playing the strongest team in the league, we're not going to reach our target. Can we set a realistic target? Again, if we're setting goals, specific, measurable, actionable, relatable. Okay, so it's things like that. Can we set a target that's relevant? So we sit down, we split the team in half. Okay, when we're playing these 10 teams, these are our targets. When we're playing these 10 teams, these are our targets. Okay, so it's kind of splitting it, and we kind of do that. That's something that we definitely implement in my own practice.
I like that. So you're kind of, when you look at your league table, you're looking at who probably are the high percentile in terms of stronger units and who are perceived, the teams that you should be beating, and therefore then cross analysis on those various teams that you're playing. I like that. So
and even I'd seen you said there in regards to some maybe the games that we lose were some of our best performances. Again, the video is going to tell you. So although we didn't reach scoring targets, turnover targets, you may have had fantastic passages of play.
Yeah.
You want to show them to the players. If you have the video, you can show them. There's always something. There's always something good. There's always something. Exactly. There really is. So again, what I recommend is have 2 sheets. What is the target for the top teams? What is the target for the bottom teams? And video. If you have the capabilities and all the permissions from the powers, you have your video, start with your video.
Rob comes in for Division 3 under 16 team, benchmark for starting the season in terms of scores. Is it a good idea to use the previous year Division 6 under 16 results as a starting point? I think it's a good idea by Rob. I just let you know, Rob, that's what we actually do. We look at, I know in counties they grade, the way they grade teams. Look at what the results were like in the previous season, and maybe that could be a starting point for you. Glenn, I don't know what your thoughts.
Yeah, there's a massive thing. I was in a course a couple of weeks ago, and someone always told me, think about averages. So what I do, tell you a story. So what I do is I find out all the scores. Okay, what was the max winning score? What was the minimum winning score? What was the average? You could go really deep again, go 10%, 20, 30, 40.
Yeah.
But the thing with averages, my head was in the freezer, my feet were in the oven. On an average, I'm fine, but I'm really dead. Okay, so it's things like that. Okay, maybe the max, maybe the min. What is the average? What did the average team win that year? What was the max? What was the min? Okay, at least then you can set a target. Is to win a game last year, girls. Do you need? So let's say Dublin won. Dublin won the match. Dublin won the league. What was Dublin's average winning margin? Average it. Tell it to the players. Okay, Dublin scored an average 216 last year per game. That's our target. Okay, but you have to be very realistic with your targets. If you just moved up a division, maybe using information from that division may not be that accurate because you're setting unrealistic goals. If week in, week out there, you have a goal that they're not reaching. Then as a coaching setup, you need to really reevaluate the context in which we live in, the context in which our sport is, and what is a realistic target that we can set to our players to improve their performance, but not to win. what can we do to improve? What can we do as a team to get better? Not what can we do as a team to win? Obviously, what you do, it's very different. Some teams go out to win. Some teams go out to participate. And it's every coach is going to know where you fit on that continuum. And obviously, your analysis in which you conduct is going to be suited. From
my own perspective, and I'll wrap it up in this. From my own perspective, I always go is, how can we improve from our last game? What can we do to be better this week? And that's all I talk about. Not who we're playing.
Progression.
Not how we're going to win or what we're going to do. I always say is, well, how can we be better than our last game, than our last session? So therefore, you're always trying to raise the standard, because when you discuss that, the standard, that's your new standard now. So the next game is your new standard. You're trying to always just try and go up that ladder. Look, Glenn, it's great, and thank you very much for being so open tonight.
Before I forget, I need to send in the material before. I'm surprised no one's replying.
What we can do is, don't worry, guys. This is recorded tonight. It'll be up on our LGFA YouTube channel tomorrow. Anybody that wants the templates from tonight, guys, no problem at all. Glenn, you can send them to myself, and I can send them out. Just send me an email.
I'm going to drop them in here now, guys. At least then, for those who are eager to get them and get started, it's going to be there for you. It's not behind the lock and key, okay?
So they'll be here in the chat function. We'll throw them in. If you want to send an email to myself, or even if you want to send me an email directly to Glenn, we'd be happy to send those templates to you. There'll be absolutely no problem there, guys. Okay. So on that note, I want to say thank you very much, Glenn. I'm going to stop the recording now, and I leave it open so you can share it in the chat function.
Yeah. So as you see there, guys, the first one is notational analysis templates. I think there's 3. We went through with the scenarios there. We have one's just turnovers, one kickouts, one. If you want to change things, change your things, okay? But at least then you have the material then to go in, try it, get the ball moving, okay? It's like anything. You can have a gym membership, but unless you use it, it's not going to work.
You can have all, I like that. You can have all the knowledge in the world, unless you apply it, it's no good to you.
You can bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, isn't it?
You can. So again, on behalf of LGFA, thank you very much. And the analysis you're doing on the LGFA, on the ladies football side, I think it's very interesting. So we look forward to working with you in the coming weeks and months. So thank you very much again.
All right. Thanks very much, guys. It's a pleasure.